We have heard a lot of talk about Star Citizen's release date. Most recently, Star Citizen releasing in 2027, according to Chris Roberts. But the big one, I think it says here, according to project leader Chris Roberts, Squadron 42 releases next year. Star Citizen releases in 27 or 28. Chris Roberts is well known for his dates and for making statements about things that maybe don't happen. This weekend, Chris Roberts was at a conference hosted by the Atmo team. Not a conference, an esports event, actually, where they hosted some of their events and races and good stuff. My man Crucian, check him out. He'd been on the podcast just a few weeks ago. He was on with Corsair as we talked about Daymar Rally. But in this little episode, we get some interesting news from Chris and potentially, I won't say dates, but definitely the same kind of energy as a date. So listen in and then we'll talk about this afterward.
But you guys did a great job just kicking out VR. And how is there more coming for VR in Star Citizen?
Yeah, there's definitely more. I mean, so for a start, I mentioned it before, but Squadron will be fully VR supporting too.
Oh, wow.
So you can play that, which is going to be pretty cool.
Now, what does fully VR supporting mean? Oh my gosh, we do not know. But like Sylvan, who is working on the Star Citizen VR application, let's see if this pulls up anything. So Sylvan already confirmed that foveated rendering is coming, but they also mentioned in the original post with VR. God, I don't know if I can even find it. Star Citizen VR Experimental Feature Edition Spectrum. It's enough tag words, right? Almost got it. Reddit always pulls up things faster than everything else, but here we are. So in this post, I believe, Sylvan does talk about what's coming in the future. Yeah, our immediate focus is polishing the current implementation and resolving existing issues. Once stable, we'll explore exciting additions like motion control support, full body tracking, face and eye tracking integration. I'm not a VR doctor. I don't know how complicated these things are, but I do wonder if Chris is referring to these things when he says full VR support, or if they literally just mean it runs smoothly. Because those are two very different things, and there's a lot of different opportunities to conflate timelines given those things and what's included. As you can see from a lot of the comments here, people are thinking it's not going to happen. You know, he's saying VR is going to be in the game. That's going to be insane that it would be ready anytime in 2026. We don't know what they're doing internally. I'm not going to tell you whether or not they can make that happen. I don't know how their engine team is working. They have a lot more people working on Squadron than on Star Citizen, and it's a simpler application. But I couldn't tell you, timeline-wise, what's realistic, what's not. But let's keep listening to what he says and get more into that. Whoops.
Yeah, it'll be very cool. You can reach out and touch Gillian Anderson. Not inappropriately if you want.
Chris.
But
I just want to be sure you know we're live, right?
Chris. Like, we're worried about these kind of quotes getting taken out and like put on a headline. Chris Roberts recently states that you can touch Gillian Anderson in Squadron 42. Bro, do it
but so we're pretty committed to, making the VR implementation the best that you've seen in gaming for any game. I mean, I think already, even the experimental mode, just the nature of Star Citizen, the fact.
What is that called? What is it called when you do that? Is that a superlative? I got to get my literal things down. Form used to denote the extreme, highest or lowest. Yeah, Chris freaking loves his superlatives, man. Oh my god.
It does so much detail, but also scale. VR is kind of perfect for it because you can walk up and actually feel the difference of an Idris compared to just getting into a Hornet or something like that. And you also can get up close and sort of see all the detail that the ship artists have put into the ships, or the environment artists have put in the environment in a way that on a flat 2D screen you can't. So that part's really great.
It is. He's not wrong.
Going to be support.
I wouldn't say I was a non-believer before, but I had never tried VR before. And I recently grabbed this. Oy! This old boy. Ow, dude! There's a little advertisement for you. Very strong. Will hit you in the head and not break. Now, this is the Pimax Crystal Super. I put a little review for this out on the main channel if you want to see it. Like, not necessarily review. It's more like a, is Star Citizen good enough to try VR for? I don't think it is right now, but I went from being like, I'm sure VR is cool and it's going to be a good time in Star Citizen to, oh my God, I have to play it like this. Like whenever it does actually work out. This kind of thing, too big for me. This thing is 900 grams. It's heavy on my head. It's really cool and it looks really great. My computer can't run it that well on Star Citizen, at least. I do great in Beat Saber. But I don't think that Star Citizen's ready just yet. Soon, by the time Squadron releases, I don't know.
More VR specific controls, so VR controllers as well as the general control stuff we do at the moment. So it is an ongoing project, and one of the other aspects is the UI side of things, which still has to be dialed in. It's sort of improved from the experimental release in Christmas, and 4.5, 4.6 has a few improvements, but it's still got quite a long way to go. But it is definitely on our plan. And so when Squadron releases, it'll be.
How do these words make sense? He's saying it's got a long way to go, but when Squadron releases, which one?
Full featured, and the same parity will be in Star Citizen. But I think as headsets become lighter, and you've got a little more power on your machines, then VR becomes more viable. Because doing it now on a high resolution head, like an OLED that isn't too heavy, it's a totally different experience than doing it on a VR headset 10 years ago. Because we actually had VR in the beginning, like in the very early stages, and then we disabled it because we were rewriting the graphics renderer and the engine, and so all that had to change. And so now that we've sort of got the next gen renderer in, which is in the Vulkan stuff and the other stuff we have, and it's also in, with ray tracing is, will be coming to Star Citizen because it's in Squadron right now, and it will come across into Star Citizen.
I like how there's people just like nerding out back here, living life, freaking jerking that joystick. We knew ray tracing was coming to Star Citizen. We already knew they were even working on that. Not surprised it's already functional in the Squadron.
Will be coming to Star Citizen because it's in Squadron right now, and it will come across into Star Citizen. That's enabled us to be able to do the VR support. So it'll be good. And we got some passionate people in our dev team, like Sylvan, who was one of the main drivers of getting the VR to work. But there's quite a few other people in the engine team and the graphics team that were also helping out behind the scenes and doing a lot of stuff. So yeah, we think it's fun because at the end of the day, Star Citizen is a universe that you just need to plug into. It's going to be like Ready Player One. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. All right. Some next level.
Dog. Virtual reality started in 2010 with the stereoscopic 3D mode for Street View. Oh my God, I remember that. Y'all remember when Google would like release their Google Cardboard? Little thing you'd have to stick your phone into and you put it on your face. Okay, 2012, the Oculus Rift is really like the big introduction of VR to the world, right? So 2012. 2014, Oculus VR gets bought. Google releases the Cardboard. People actually start using stuff. Honestly, that's not the biggest moment in that year, but I feel like the Google Cardboard for me was the moment when I was like, oh, they're trying to make this so that people can actually use this. They didn't succeed at it, but they were trying. 2017, they started developing their first headset. So let's jump to 2018 here. First new Oculus headset, I guess, after they bought. So yeah, 2018. 2020, the Oculus Quest 2 was unveiled. And honestly, it was around this time where we started to see like really big headset manufacturers, or not big, sorry, more of the experimental manufacturers, the purpose-built VR studios that wanted to specifically target VR. Obviously Meta, Facebook, whatever you call them. They bought Oculus, they're doing other stuff. But then we started to see companies like Big Screen, and I think Pimax came on around that time. Megan, I think is the name of another company that came in around that time. Obviously, HTC was doing their thing. I loved HTC stuff, man. Even their smartphones were just really good. Quest 2 was received mostly positively. So Quest 2. This is when stuff like got serious. I think it was when headsets started to seem like they were gameable. This isn't even freaking... We gotta find another more updated timeline here. We started to get a lot more features that I think are making this technology more reliable. Our CPUs are getting more powerful at smaller sizes. GPUs. Actually, no, it's probably CPU power that's really running these. Our computer, our chips are getting more efficient, we'll say. Yeah, our chips are getting more efficient. Field of view is improving. This is also obviously with the hardware improvements allowing our frame rates to go up. We're getting new interesting tech that allows for optimization that we didn't have before, like foveated rendering. Like the things that are starting to mature in virtual reality to make it possible for this to actually be something normal people can use are only just starting to become true, in my opinion. And it took this whole time of just like trying different headsets, poking at the market, getting the early adopters in, going through the process of figuring out what works and what doesn't. And it's only just now it feels like VR headsets are starting to mature and we're getting better models like the, again, the Megan Alex or something like that is the name of the headset. The big screen beyond is starting to get smaller. It's being a little closer to the eyes. Field of view is better. It's a little more comfortable. This is big. This is bulky. But again, this is the last model it looks like from this company, or at least not the last model that looks like this, but the last one before they go for something that's smaller and fits your face better. Foveated rendering is also something that we even saw was discussed by Sylvan as being something that's important to get into the game with Star Citizen. And in my opinion, both Star Citizen and VR have been following a pretty similar path of trying to push, trying to do something interesting, trying to prod and see where their market is and who wants to actually pick up their stuff. Both have obviously had plenty of setbacks and have not gone smoothly through these years like they wanted to. But it also feels like they're both kind of converging in the same way towards like being actually ready for mainstream. I don't think that's going to happen this year or it's going to happen at the same time. But it really does feel like VR was kind of made for Star Citizen and vice versa. I know that they've planned VR out in Star Citizen from the beginning. But wow, it's crazy how much the timelines matched up. Hold on, bring the paint back. Because I totally am missing some important details there. I didn't even finish the map. We had VR going and going and going, right? But what's further for VR is the Steam frame. This might be the encapsulation of what they've needed. I don't know if the Steam frame has foveated rendering, does it? I know it's not like a powerhouse in terms of specs or features. Neither was the iPhone. Yeah, it's got foveated rendering. So it's got eye tracking cameras. It's got foveated rendering. It can be wireless. It's definitely got a better design than a lot of the other ones. I like that it's form-fitting around your nose like that. I think this like look of just the block on your face is a very unappealing look to me. Call me shallow. I think I look like an idiot. Like, I just think this looks better, okay? I'm sorry. I like nice graphics. I like good-looking hardware. I like aesthetic products. I think that making the headset look better is going to help as well. All of these things seem like they are focused on what I was just saying. Making it as easy a package as possible for people to use, with all of the optimizations and new tech that's been building over time to like really sell the experience. We'll see if it works. You know, I'm not saying this is going to be the iPhone of VR. I don't think VR is going to have an iPhone moment, but there's definitely a wall of adoption that they're getting really close to breaking through it, I think. The foveated streaming is crazy. That might be one of the biggest things, being able to do this wirelessly. Like, that's not a huge news drop, but it's definitely the kind of thing that gets people thinking. If VR is supposed to work properly in Squadron 42, what are the chances that it's actually going to be happening this year? I don't think that's crazy out of the question. There's a lot of stuff that could be done in the next few months. The interesting part is, like, games generally are finished pretty well before they get released. Like, you're trying to get everything that you need done months in advance, so that those last few months are really just publishing, last finishing touches. Like, it's not really development time anymore. So how long into this year can they be working on VR? I genuinely thought that VR should be like an addition to Squadron after release. They should be obviously trying to pursue it because it's really good and it looks really great. It's a great way to experience the game, but I figured it wouldn't be ready by the time they release. I don't know if it will be, but this is an interesting little bit of news that I figure people want to hear about. You can make your own conclusions. I'm not going to tell you if they can do it or not. I'm just here. I'm just messaging.